Okay, so this won't take very long at all. I just wanted to take some time to go over again. This is only for the graduate faculty and specifically for courses that are taught by faculty where there are documents having to pertain to the practicum or the capstone courses. So this, we'll start off with here we go. So the student document checklist, what is this checklist? It's a Google document that tracks everything that is required for the capstone and the practicum, such as labs, immunization, records, background checks, trainings. I mean, there's so much on this checklist. Where is it kept? We keep it on the Google Drive. There's a shared Google Drive that all the faculty who need to work with these sheets have access to. How can I find it? You can search the active faculty checklist for MSN. Now we'll come back to all of this. This is just a very quick overview of what we're going to be talking about. How will I know if I need the student document checklist? If you teach NUR 506, 516, 513, or any of the 600 odds or even courses, and the students will have drop boxes in these courses that they will be submitting documents to. How do I complete it? You're going to access the documents from the student course Dropbox, and then you're going to be just checking off the document checklist, and then you sign it at the bottom. In order to know, why we have this process in place, and also to see how it correlates with the way we sequence our courses. The first course we have in the MSN program is the NUR 506, which is the Foundations of Advanced Practice Nursing. The three little red stars before NUR 506 indicates that it is going to be the first course in which documents will be submitted, and this capstone document checklist needs to begin to be completed by the faculty of record. The next course is NUR. Oh, let me just back up one thing and explain why. Why so early in the program? That is because we want the students to not give us any surprises. For example, we check the background checks. We look at the different preceptors or mentors they're going to be choosing. We need to make sure that they're understanding what they're going to be needing to do and how to prepare to meet the facility prerequisites as well as Grantham's prerequisites. Now, NUR 552 is the next course. There's no documents in there. NUR 510, that's Advanced Physical Assessment, no documents. HSN 548, Concepts of Healthcare Informatics, no documents. So we're just talking about the core courses at this time. The next course in which we have documents is the NUR 516, which is the Nursing Research and Evidence-Based Practice. Now, we're just starting to really make this course more robust with having documents that need to be submitted. Each time the document checklist is applicable to the course, that faculty needs to verify, go back, look at that document, look in the Google Drive. What has been submitted? What needs to be submitted? A lot of the times there are going to be repeats where you have to resubmit because several documents will already be expired. Then from NUR 516, the students will break off into their tracks. EDU has 4 track courses, and it'll be the first track that will have what is called the DCCPE, which is the Direct Care Clinical Practice Experience. This was a requirement by CCNE, and the EDU track will be the first track that's going to implement it. So you can see why it's important that we need to have these capstone practicum prerequisites met, because the students will actually be going into clinical for 8 hours in each of the 4 track courses, and they need to have certain documents ready to present to the facility. MOL has 4 track courses, Currently, they do not have the DCCPE. The Nursing Informatics and Case Management has 3 track courses plus HSN 509. Moving after the track courses, the students then go into NUR 513. This course is the Diverse Populations and Healthcare. This is the final course before the 600s. This is what we call, this is a stop dead course. In other words, if the students do not have one document not submitted or insubmitted correctly, they will not go into their 600 odds or evens courses. And to back up a little bit, I didn't mention this before, but the NUR 516 will also be a stop dead course. Reason for that being is, remember, the 516 precedes the EDU 4-track courses. The EDU 4-track courses have the DCCPE hours. We need to have these documents prepared in order for the EDU students to go through their direct care clinical practice experience. Then the final courses, of course, are the 600s odds and evens, where the checklist needs to be finished. Let's go through what each of the prerequisites on the checklist, what they look like, and what courses they pertain to. Now remember that the actual checklist is found in Google Drive. The actual checklist does not look like this. This is just a condensed version so I can get everything from one course on one screen. But when you open up your document, let's say you're in 506, and if you're having any trouble finding this document, get in touch with me. I'll be happy to send you a link so you can find your documents for your students. So your documents will look a little bit different from this. But the one thing we have in common is that each of the prerequisites are spelled out for you. When they are completed, you do an initial, you put your 2 initials. You can make some notes here. Let's say if you sent an email to a student and the student needs to get her background check completed or his background check completed, and they just will do that next week. Well, if you want, you can put a little note in here if you wish. If not, then just wait on that. CPR has to be current within 2 years. You have to show the immunization records, and every year the PPD and influenza needs to be updated. And you can see the rest of the types of prerequisites that need to be completed. When you go into the actual Google Doc, these are hyperlinked. So when the student gets the document, they will be able to click on the hyperlink and they receive the document and then they can complete it. These are found in the courses. Okay, that's where all of this is: complete this, complete that, click on this link. And so the first course is 506. And I believe, Mary Jane, you're here and you've been teaching this course. If you have any difficulty with these, let me know. Our courses are getting quite filled with students, and sometimes this takes a long time. If you need any help, just let me know. Let's go to the next course. Here's 516. So now 516, the instructor, who in this case I believe is Evelyn, this course will be a hard stop, meaning that if the students do not have these documents completed and this checklist verified, they will not go any further. 516 goes no further. Why is that? Because following 516 are the 4-track courses for EDU, and we have the direct care clinical practice. This is a change to our curriculum, and again, I will be helping Evelyn or any other faculty who might be teaching 516 to make sure that these documents are submitted to the drop boxes. The faculty or myself will pull the document from the Dropbox, open this checklist, verify by placing your initials in this area, the date that it was received, the date that it was checked off, any notes that you might want to have. Okay, the next thing is 513. Now, 513, this course is the one that follows all of the core courses. Therefore, the DCCPE is behind the education students, and now the entire student body, the track courses being done, are now going into 513. It is going to be, again, a hard stop for every student before they go into any of the 600 level courses. So 513, and traditionally, I think Dr. Chris Farrell has been responsible for doing this, doing a wonderful job for us. He will go back again, gathering all of the documents that have been placed in the document drop boxes in NUR 513, and then he pulls up the checklist and he will look ahead, rather he looks behind and says, okay, has the student submitted this before? If the student has submitted it before, doesn't matter. Most of these documents need to be updated. And so we require, again, the CPR. You're going to be requiring the immunizations, the PPD, and the influenza. Additionally, Dr. Farrell will be actually requiring that now we're going to be taking a look at the, oops, sorry, let me go back. Don't want that to happen. There we go. We'll be taking a look at the preceptor CV, the preceptor who will be working with our students during the practicum, which is the even 600 courses. We're going to be making sure that we have the printed license for the preceptor. In the preceptor handbook, our students are told they need to have faculty who are able to precept them. So it will be an MSN or an APRN, whichever, but they need to possess the proper qualifications. So we look at that CV and we make sure that they are properly licensed. Finally, we expect the preceptor affiliation agreement to be signed, and this is between Grantham School of Nursing and the clinical preceptor, and also the clinical affiliation agreement contract between Grantham and the clinical affiliate. Pat is the person, she's the go-to for this. Okay, wait a minute, I think Maureen, I hope you're back in, Maureen, I just admitted you. So these two agreements, Pat is the person who will facilitate this. What's very important at this point is that if, especially we have military students, if they have moved or been reassigned, then at times they have to get new preceptors and they have to actually redo this entire assignment. They also need to have brand new clinical affiliation agreements. So that's why in 513, the students need to be encouraged to get working on this very soon, or they will not be able to go into their 600 level courses.
Gloria, this is Evelyn, and I have a question.
Yes,
I
Evelyn.
noticed when you pulled up 516, it said nothing about the project approval form. It's part of 516.
Yes, yes.
And I live in mortal terror that, these students get a project developed and then they can't get it approved.
Yep.
What I've
Evelyn,
found over the years, a lot
yeah.
of them are already have identified their preceptor and have been talking to their preceptor. But
Thank you.
I do get kind of nervous. We've talked about moving it up in 516 to the first week, which I
Yes.
still think we need to do instead
Okay.
of having it in week 8.
Mm-hmm. Thank you, Evelyn. I think that's a wonderful idea. And what I'll do is I'll go back and look into 516 and see what other documents from 516 need to go on this form, because before 516 was not even a part of the original document checklist. We've just added this. So you're right, we need to put that on there. And go ahead and email me if you have any other suggestions for a document that we really need to verify that it's been done. But thank you for that. I will make sure that the project approval is done. That is really important, especially when we get into the 600s, because it's the first time that we're going to be getting our students' capstones implemented.
Yeah,
In the
and if they
annual,
don't have it, then they're in trouble.
Yes, absolutely. So let me see. I think I had a few people in the chat. Um, let's see.
I've got it.
Oh, oh,
It
oh,
was Teresa. Yeah,
okay, Teresa, I see.
she had to leave.
Okay, very good. She knows the stuff. Good. Okay, NUR 603. Well, actually, this is the first odd 600 for education, and it's the same no matter what the course number is. And this is the time that we look at our capstone implementation plan and timeline. So in addition to, I think that what Evelyn had mentioned about the project approval needs to probably be included here as well. Because the
Yeah,
first thing is that we need to look at that capstone plan to make sure that it can be implemented. In our very first, I think it's week 2, in our odd 600s, there is an assignment where the students need to submit their implementation plan and timeline. And this is also a time for feedback from the faculty of record, who will tell the student that this is not a feasible plan or it is a feasible plan. Capstone project approval agreement. I believe this is the one you're talking about,
yes.
Evelyn. Okay, good. Now, the next thing, and I know that Pat hit upon this when she was talking about this SEP today, she talked about meeting with our practicum preceptors. It is so important, and this is one of the requirements by our accreditors, that we need to show our presence working with the practicum preceptors and knowing and just letting the accreditors know that we are actively engaged with our students during the practicum experience. Arranging a pre-practicum learning conference of any type, email, you can do it with Skype or Zoom, I love Zoom, is essential, and it is a requirement not only to have the conference, but to somehow record, even if you just make a note, you need to place it on this form and say, what time did it happen? Did you record it? Who was there? And for the most part, I always have my students with me because this is the time we review the completed pre-practicum learning contract. This is the time that the preceptors will get together, the three of us now, the student, preceptor, myself, and we go over each of the goals. We go over how they're going to be, completing the goal and what method of assessment they're going to be using. And I think maybe when we have our next meeting as a graduate faculty, I'm going to go over the completion of that part of the 600 odds, because I think many faculty either they're not completing it or they don't know what to do with it. But that pre-practicum learning contract needs to be filled out properly. It needs to be signed by ourselves and of course the student and the faculty member who has agreed to be their preceptor. So now we move into the final course, which is the post-practicum or the end of course, NUR 604. So the things that we have to check off on this list is not so much for the capstone, but is just the closure of the nursing program for the student. It begins with making sure we have our Blackboard surveys completed. We should have 3 surveys that the students have completed, and they are in the courses. They open automatically for the students, and you must make sure that the student completes it. And the way you know this is you will see an actual check in the grade book. And when you go in there and you look at the statistics for that particular column, you can go in there and see that your student has completed that particular job placement, student evaluation of preceptor, student evaluation of the practicum experience. You have to make sure that the student sends in the preceptor evaluation of the student. This is for your review only. We do not use this in any way to grade. This is something for us just to follow to see if there have been any issues. Remember that the students' work and the students' ability to complete the practicum in a satisfactory manner according to the preceptor is one of the ways that we know that student has finished the practicum and should graduate.
Gloria, how are you
Yes.
getting that into Blackboard, since that's usually a manual paper from the precept to the student?
We have this, I have a student get the sign from, get the sign form from the preceptor and actually upload it.
They upload it.
There's a
Okay.
place to upload it. Yes.
Okay.
There's a
Because
place to
just so
upload.
everybody knows, that's Gloria's doing a terrific job of a complex system. But the end goal for is all of this to be submitted by the student, and it's archived then in Blackboard, which is a secure server, and we don't have to worry about how do we keep these documents secure. They shouldn't be sitting on your computer. They need to go by the student into Blackboard, and they'll be there forever for us to recover.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. And if we find that you've got a student, let's say you have a student who's taking an incomplete, and the student needed to submit one more form in 513. Okay, that's the course right before the 600s. If the student was to say, here I have this form, do you know that we as faculty can go back to our courses and we can submit that form for the student by just being able to upload it into the Dropbox for that assignment. If anyone needs to have any help with that.
Are you on mute, or can you hear? Or?
I can put it on mute.
Okay.
I'm sorry. Oh, okay. So anyway, let me know if you need any help. Bubaka has done a wonderful job with orienting me to how to do that. And I'll tell you, it wasn't easy. So I'm kind of like Cheryl. Technology just bites at my heels. I keep running from it, but it keeps biting at me. But anyway, there is a way that we can do this. And we need just to put it in our courses. So after you have the the preceptor evaluation, then of course, at the end of our capstones, you have the final capstone approved. I wholeheartedly recommend that you take that Word document, that final Word document, you sign it and create it, turn it into a PDF, submit it back to the student, have the student submit it as a PDF. Therefore, it can never more be touched by us or anyone else, especially our signatures. And then that is going to repose in the final course. And if any time we want to retrieve for any reason for accreditation, we've got a completed final capstone. When I go back and review many of these courses for QA, I find that the faculty are not finishing these last vital steps. Also, the POID table is so important. That is one of the last assignments that the student submits to the faculty that actually is their justification, their self-assessment, and how they met all of the programmatic outcomes. We base one of our ELAs, help me with what does that stand for? Level of achievement. We base our levels of achievement on how the student did the POID table. We need to have that scored. It needs to be placed in the assignment Dropbox. Finally, when our students give their capstone presentation, all of the faculty that come to these, and I really, I wholeheartedly wish that many of you would come and just hear these wonderful presentations of our students. But everyone who's there has an opportunity to complete an oral presentation scorecard. This is like the final blessing for our students. And it is a different type of scorecard. This is one that is based upon oral presentation skills and how they did their beautiful final PowerPoints. And then these scorecards are sent to nursing@grantham.edu. Once again, we're just not getting this. So when we had this meeting with our leadership team last week, Susan and I thought, we need to probably put this on our QA checklist, that when we go into each of these courses, 506, 516, 513, even an odd 600s, that we make sure that before that course is is closed and put away, that these documents have been submitted. So we may be reaching out to some of you to say, would you please, do you have this? Will you please go back or give it to us? We'll put it in there for you. But we need to make sure that in the future, if ever one of our site visitors comes and says, open up one of those classrooms, I want to see that you really are doing this. And this is the final wonderful thing that we added. When ACEN came out, I was put in the hot seat because I couldn't really show that we were signing off on these contracts. So what we added, I happened to have one that was completed, and thankfully I showed it to her and she was like, oh, this is wonderful, you're all doing your job. Well, we weren't doing our job. Now we need to do it. This is at the bottom of every checklist. It starts out with, as you see, 506. This is going to be Dr. Neary or Dr. Weber. You go ahead and you put, let me go back, put your initials in there. Then you can do an electronic signature. And now here's that handoff we were talking about. This is not the place to really say anything about the student. But if you want to highlight something like student is promising to submit the background check first week of next course. Well, as you know, 513 is not the next course. It's going to be 516 when this is changed. We can't wait that long. So this is why in the future we will be going back into the courses. And if we see something like this, myself or Susan, we're going to be pursuing to make sure that those background checks are completed and it's just not out there as a blank. Okay, and then again, it'll go to 516, then 513, the odd 600, and the even 600. Okay, the final thing is, remember that pre-practicum conference? This is where we're going to be recording. It's on there now, and I don't think very many people are filling it out. You need to put the date that you had the conference, what time, was it a teleconference, what the name of the preceptor, if you did it on Zoom, did you upload it to YouTube? If you don't know how to do that, send it to me. I will be happy to put it up there. And then what we'll do is we actually put the link of where that YouTube recording is. Again, if our accreditors come back and say, we need proof that you are meeting with your faculty preceptors, we've got a YouTube meeting or we've got some kind of a documentation that a conference has occurred. It is also to our advantage that you go ahead and you note the attendees, their names, if you want to put their initials, their degrees, and also who they were. Mine have the 3 people for the most part. Okay. All right. And this is the last slide I have on the Google Shared Drive, is there is an archive folder. When you are finished with this at any time, or especially I'm talking about the very last 600 courses, go ahead and email me and I can go ahead and move your course, your checklist to the archive folder. Sometimes it takes a special privilege to be able to move one of those things, and I can help you with that. It also will give me a time to look at it and making sure everything is finished. Part of our QA course monitoring will include verifying that checklists are complete, and all student documents will be kept in Blackboard where the student uploaded them. And remember that this is a team effort, and the faculty from 506, 516, 513, and all 600s, we each have an essential part to play in this. And if you need any help, if you find that I've got too many students, I can't go in there and pull out those documents, Gloria, give me a hand. I will happily do that for you because I know that this is time consuming. Just reach out, okay?